Hi, it's Emma here from the B2BML team. Now more than ever, it's important to optimise your blogs, one, for Google, so people can find your content when they're searching questions, for readership, so it provides value to people who are visiting your blog and builds trust with them, and also to promote your downloadable content as well. There are plenty of ways to do this in HubSpot, so let's jump into the tool and find out. Great, so we're in the blog tool, so let's find a blog to optimise. I've cloned one here, this is one I created earlier, that's the super quick guide to creating the perfect blog. So let's open that one up. Fab. So first things first, before we take a scroll through the blog, just going into settings. So we want to make sure here that we're using a keyword and just making sure that your keyword is chosen and selected and researched before you start drafting your blog. And then once you have drafted your blog, just making sure that all of the settings in the background here, so your blog title, your meta description, just making sure that that has, quick guide to creating a perfect blog, for example, is your keyword throughout. In the settings as well, just making sure it's in your URL. You can also select the author and any tags if you're using blog filtering within your blog listing page. Also just worth selecting a featured image as well. Brilliant, so let's go through to the main blog. So here you can see, if we have a quick skim through, using images, throughout. A couple of tips on images, just making sure that if you're using quite a few throughout your blog, that you're keeping an eye on the size, basically. Although you can resize the image in HubSpot under options. Ooh, that's not working for me right now. There we go. You can obviously adapt the width and height, but the image size itself, in terms of like how many kilobytes it is, should ideally be about 150 kilobytes. That's purely so it doesn't impact the load speed of your blog. If you think about it, the number of images you have in one blog, times that by say 50 blogs, all using sort of very high res images, it will eventually slow down the load speed. There are tools that you can use to shrink your images as well. Tiny JPEG is great, and also compressor.io is great as well for taking your slightly higher res images and making sure they're compressed and able to be used in things like blogs. Great, so as you can see as well, we've got a read more separator. It's worth just bearing in mind where you add that, because your read more separator will just cut that part of the blog and just pull that through to your blog listing page if you're using kind of a listing page with the format of an image and then a couple of sentences, just making sure that that's sitting in the right place, so it's consistent across all of your blogs in the listing page. We've also used throughout here kind of bolded text, lists. You can see there's a few things here, and kind of other subheadings and things as well. This is really great in terms of, especially if you've got like a very long blog, just making sure that everything's kind of broken up. It's great to use images, but obviously just making sure that you're giving people the opportunity to have little kind of takeaway lists that they can refer back to, and key things to remember, just making sure that they're in bold. You can also see that we're using various sort of internal and external links to other pages within our website, but also to other external sources like eConsultancy, Huffington Post, that sort of thing. It really helps to give context to your to what you're saying, the points that you're making, and also trying to direct people to other places on your site as well is key to just creating kind of good internal and external linking and cross-linking between your pages. So the final thing just to think about is your CTA, your calls to action. So at the very bottom here you can see, sorry, just keep scrolling, we've got a call to action that's very image based. and that's great. It's really eye-catching, and you know, having that at the bottom of your blog will mean that people have got another piece of content to go and download. But not everyone necessarily will scroll to the end of your blog, so it's just worth thinking about if there's any other places that you can add CTAs to as well. They don't have to be as attention grabbing as a image-based CTA throughout your blog. We don't really want to disrupt the flow of the blog too much. So just scrolling to the top here, because some people might just read a couple of paragraphs and then sort of be fairly ready to download something or move on to something else. They might think, yeah, this is fine, but I kind of want to have, you know, something in more of a PDF takeaway format, for example. So what we can do is add text-based CTAs. I've chosen to add one here because it provides kind of a nice flow to the blog. There we go. A nice flow to the blog. So if we just go into CTAs, I'll show you one that I created earlier. So here is our CTA. It just says, looking for more tips on how to create content that generates leads, check out our ebook. To create a text-based CTA, if I just come out of here and go back to the CTA list, you go to create new, and you can see it's bringing up the default call to action button. All you need to do is just change that to link no style, and then all it will do is act as a hyperlink. So it'll be eye-catching, but not enough to really disrupt the general flow of the blog. So you can just add your content in there, hit next, save, and then you've got yourself a text CTA. So let's just insert this one here. Fab. And then let's just see how that's looking. Brilliant. So we created this one as an H3 just to make sure it stands out, but it isn't too disruptive to the rest of the blog. Fab. So one more thing just to add. Let's go back to the blog post and then publish and schedule area. So one thing that we'd recommend when making sure that your blog posts are as optimized as possible is enabling Google AMP. So it just means that your content will render more quickly on mobile, and it will keep visitors like on your page, reading more of your content. If something doesn't load properly or is loading slowly, a lot of people will just click away and find another source of content that answers their question. So it's just worth making sure that you've enabled Google AMP for your blog post, but also you can set that up in your main settings as well within HubSpot. So yeah, once you're ready, you've switched on Google AMP, you've checked through your blog to make sure that there's lots of areas that you can kind of break up the text, add any external and internal links just to provide a little bit more context and to direct people towards your products and services. And just making sure that you're using compressed images as well throughout your blog. And then also just making sure that you're using your keyword. So just to recap on where you should use your keyword, just making sure that it's in your blog title, your blog URL, your meta description, also within your alt text of your images. So just looking at the alt text here, we've got writing the perfect blog, and then we could say our quick content guide and use our keyword there, and it also just needs to be in any subheaders as well that you're using. It doesn't have to be in every one, just in a few, and you can use natural derivations of the keyword as well. It doesn't have to be strictly that keyword throughout the copy. Great, so that's everything on how to optimize a blog. If you have any questions, just let us know. Thanks very much, guys.